Chris Cody, let's talk about Mike Ryan as if he's not here, please.
All right.
I'm having some real issues with him behind the scenes. He called me a dick via text. He's threatening to quit. I can't execute any of the shit I want to execute as a show and a company because he's afraid of all the things we've done around here and primarily what your father's done.
Yeah, my dad's done a lot. I'm also scared. I just don't have the courage that he does.
The courage to call me a dick?
Yeah.
The courage to quit?
Well, I'm just scared,
to threaten to quit?
I'm so scared. I need you to tell me how to feel today. Tell me what to say. Tell me not what not to say. I'm in a bad place right now, Dan.
I will tell you what to feel because I am in here today, and I'm not kidding when I tell you that I have not been this ready to do a show in 10 years. I am 100% engaged, and I am 100% fucking enraged, okay? Because the fear is the fucking best thing about all of it. It's been 10 years since I felt this. The better the fear, the better the fulfillment after you conquer the fear. The fact that everyone on this show is afraid of doubling down on the bet because they're afraid that their team, the best bleeping team, can't win one game when they have two. When I keep telling you guys, Game 7 is the best thing. Give me overtime, Game 7. Give me overtime.
Please stop.
Give me all the stakes on fear because you believe in your team and you're willing to bet on your team. But you know what happens when you believe in your team and you want your team to win? You get really scared when they've got that guy. That guy is going to make history, and you've got to stop him. He's teaching everyone in the sport that he's Gretzky, that he is the best. You've got to beat the best to win that cup. That's what we're doing. It wouldn't have been as fun in 4 games. This is what you need to make these things 10 years of memorable.
Dick.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the.
I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I am terrified, and it feels great. You guys don't like the fear. Mike Ryan's out here causing problems in the company, tweeting his complaints publicly instead of privately, saying I work with the most frustrating and most inconsiderate people imaginable. I'm 38 and I've had enough. I'm up in May of 2025. We all are, by the way. I co-produced a #1 album and can do voices. We'll cut tape. I got a text from somebody sharing this with me, and what they said is, if this is somebody who works with us, somebody who works here, if this is a bit, I don't get it. This is somebody who works with Mike Ryan. He is infuriated with your father and everything we're doing in this series, and he's furious with me, even though I can't execute the things that I want. And furthermore, when your father did this, I was not here. I was as far away from here as you could be while remaining in the contiguous United States. And I'm getting blamed nationally. Not you, Mike Ryan. Not you. Not even Greg Cody. Nationally, I'm the one being blamed for saying McDavid is overrated, even though I in no way endorse that take. What I do endorse is Greg Cody making a fool of himself nationally.
There was a tweet that compared you to Charles Manson,
Yeah.
and
That's far.
I think that hit it right on the head.
Completely.
Yeah, this is a Manson family murder. You're pulling all the strings. Greg Cody is Greg Cody. The fact that anybody gave it oxygen is fairly ridiculous. You gave it the most oxygen. You are the villain here. You're complaining, I'm not doing what I want to do. I've got a montage of your Greg Cody tweets scrolling behind me.
No, I'll tell you what I want to
Hey,
do.
we're going to do this again. I just want to talk about the game.
We will talk about the game because that game ratcheted everything up to the place where it is today because McDavid beat the Panthers at their best, being their best in the third period, being their best toward the end. Tkachuk makes a play with 18 seconds left that has to be, it cannot be considered anything but the best empty net save there has ever been. You might say to me that there is one as good somewhere in the history of hockey, somewhere as good, and I might agree with you if you show it to me, but you will not show me one better. Ever in the history of the sport, you will not show me one better than that. And what happens after that is McDavid just promptly scores.
No, the rest of the Panthers are at the other end of the ice just staring at the play, so they get an easy goal.
I think Martinook had a really good one for the Hurricanes like a month ago in the game that they ended up getting eliminated in.
There might be one as good. There cannot be one better.
It was an incredible play, and look, the nature of the clock and the game scenario at that point was it was going to be pretty hard to have another opportunity to score, but at least you leave that game seeing that effort from Matthew Tkachuk specifically, who grew into the series in that game. Balls dropped big time. Tkachuk, you go in there knowing that Tkachuk has arrived in this series, but Ekman-Larsson just skates away from the play and it ends up going in the net, and that was a huge bummer unless you had the third period over in an elimination game, which is an automatic bet.
You could say that Tkachuk's balls dropped, but Ekman-Larsson dropped the ball. Like, you cannot, in that game with everyone playing that way, you cannot be someone who's skating around in circles like he's doing something on a Christmas skating rink.
Well,
in
you
New York.
argue it's one of the best. I'm not even pushing back on it. We see that occasionally, especially in desperate moments like that. But Ekman-Larsson skates away because he assumed the puck was in the net. Because how could Matthew Tkachuk make that play in that spot? In many respects, Ekman-Larsson skating away from the play just speaks to how absurd that play was for Matthew Tkachuk. But Ekman-Larsson, the Stanley Cup's on the line. You gotta be following the play. You gotta hope and pray that Tkachuk makes that play.
Let me talk to you guys a little bit because you've heard me over the years say some of the things that I love the best in sports. Desperate champion, which is what the Panthers were trying to be in that third period, is a great deal of fun to watch. They were trailing the entire game. McDavid did amazing things. One of those things, surrounded by four Panthers, just skates right through four Panthers somehow because Barkov's not on the ice for 3 seconds, and he takes out four Panthers. But to be able to watch with Canada, with North America, the expectation of, can McDavid take out the best team? This is the best team. The Panthers in the third period all season, they've been the best team in the league. They were at home, and once McDavid got them. They've scored 10 straight goals, the Oilers, since the Panthers pushed them to the brink on the hardest trophy to get in sports. This is the greatest thing. What you wanted Tatum to be, Mike, McDavid is. You have to finish the best if you want that trophy. You asked Tatum, control the entireties of these games. McDavid is doing things in the postseason no one has ever done.
Yeah, because he's had a really good 2 games. I don't think that point doesn't exist if the Panthers sweep this series. You may need it because your infatuation with Game 7 and the fact that you don't actually care the way that we care, which is the disconnect here.
No.
We care.
I'm not
you
gonna-
want a
no.
Game 7 in overtime. We wanted a sweep in 4 because it doesn't change. McDavid is that great. And the disconnect from the start of this was people not understanding how great Connor McDavid was. And it took you actually having to see it against the Florida Panthers to realize the fire you were playing with.
Nope. I like playing with fire. I'm going to tell a story I have not told before. I don't think Tony and Jeremy know anything about this. I don't think Chris Cody knows it either. It's a story about this show and about this company. And it's a story about Mike Ryan, frankly, because it's not a story a lot of people know. We had to make a choice during the pandemic about what we were going to do during a hugely uncertain time as the Clevelander physically fell apart. Like the building we were in was falling apart when we were making that scary decision during a pandemic. A decision I wasn't ready to make, a decision that everyone listening to this knows why we made. And Stugotz and I were split on it. I wanted to go with DraftKings, and he wanted to go with SiriusXM. SiriusXM had a bunch of structure and marketing. They put our names in billboards and stuff, and they've done content before. DraftKings hasn't. And we were stuck. Stugotz and I didn't agree. And Mike Ryan's in there, and he's the one with a baby. He's the one who's got to, worry about what the future is. And Mike Ryan bet on DraftKings because Mike Ryan bet on us. This is the bet you're afraid of doubling down on? Putting up a billboard in Edmonton? This is to double down as a Panther fan. This is the bet that you're afraid of?
I care more about Matthew Tkachuk than I do my daughter.
How can you be afraid of doubling down on this? I haven't done anything that I've wanted to here, and you can accuse me of not caring like you do because nobody cares about this like you do. You interned for the franchise.
It was my first job.
This is the team you care about most, and it's the championship you want the most.
It is, and I think people are seeing this is the cliche brought to life. This is the hardest team trophy in sports to win because of the nature of how physical this sport is, because of the injuries people play with, because of the aspect of puck luck. This is a very difficult thing to win. For the first time in its 30 years of existing, the Panthers are a game away, and I don't feel like making it all about nonsense, which is what this show is largely doing, and despite my objections, continues to do. It's supposed to be hard. This path would not be more diluted if they won in 4. The path was taking down the boogeyman in Tampa Bay, who's been your absolute daddy. You got rid of them in the first series. Taking on Boston, who hates your guts, who you upset, came back from 3-1 in the previous postseason, who absolutely despises you and think that they're just as good as you, and you dismiss them. Then you go after the best goalie in the game and the New York market and a team that won the President's Trophy, and then you take on Canada and the best player in the freaking world. There is no way that experience is diluted by 4. You need it to be 6. You need it to be 7. That's on you. I don't need that. I just need to win on Friday. That's all. I need this cup like I need oxygen, and I don't like the silly games this show is playing around it because you're messing with something that I care about deeply.
No, this matters, and it doesn't matter how much you win it by. I mean, when you look at it, Dan, I'm thinking of in 2011 when the Mavericks were playing the Heat, and it was LeBron James who had yet to win a championship. Do you think that Mavericks fans were like, oh, man, I really hope that this goes to overtime in 7 games?
Look, you guys can do this to me all you want because I had these arguments 10 years ago about Heat Spurs, telling everybody the best part of the roller coaster is the fear. You got to be scared of some shit. It makes all of it better. I know you all want to coast. We were wildly bored by the Boston Celtics. Their fan base, not at all. They loved all of it. Just crush everybody. I understand why regional fans would like that. I understand, and you've got to understand that right now, regional fans, when I tell you this is Heat all over again from 10 years ago, nobody wants your team to win. No, they're the lovable underdog, and everybody wants the favorite. Everybody wants that monster to get the trophy that he deserves because he's so obviously great. What do I want? My favorite thing. The inside joke only our audience understands.
We got that already.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Crystal clear. You got
Steve
the fun.
Levy was
They filled a week's worth of content in between games. You got it. You got it.
And the best part about that is that it's not going at Greg Cody. It's going at Dan Le Batard.
Yeah.
As it should.
That's the best part.
As it should.
100%.
As it should. Thankfully, the audience is smart enough to realize that Dan is the villain here.
That is the part.
Look at that Steve Levy point and look. He's just like, Dan Le Batard.
I wasn't even in town when he did it. And when you say, Mike, that I don't care enough, I want to do a pregame show from right now till the end of Game 6. I want to not leave the air for 48 hours talking about this. I've wanted to do draft parties, live watch parties this entire time, but you're too busy at the games.
Yeah, because I care that much. I got to tell you, Game 5 was the most expensive loss I have ever endured. That was an expensive L to be catching. I sat next to a show fan, and he DM'd me afterwards. He's like, I'm really surprised at your poker face. Now, I didn't respond to him that I was on about 25 milligrams at the time. But I was honestly just stunned. After 3-0, I'm like, wow, what a terrible purchase that I made. Thank God I saved those $20 using the promo code Dan on the Game Time app.
How are you guys not crushing Ekman-Larsson today for just skating around in circles with 18 seconds left?
He did score before that.
Ekman-Larsson got bumped up to the power play unit 1 because Brandon Montour has been so bad. Montour's been really, really bad, making bad mistakes. The Florida Panthers have given up an NHL record 5 shorthanded goals this postseason. It actually feels like they've just surrendered that in the last 2 games.
Let me hammer that home, what Mike just said. In this, I'm just going to talk about this series. They're 1 for 15 on the power play, and ready for their goal differential? -1. No. Yeah. On the power play, I'm telling you, that is an insane stat. They're
crazy.
-1 on the power play in this series.
That is devastating to hear you say out loud. That is crazy.
We joked a few episodes ago
about dismissing. No, decline.
I had
no
people
penalty,
at the
no
game
penalty.
walk up to me and ask me, hey, do you think that they're allowed to decline the penalty? And I was like, we talked about this on the show days ago. And no.
It's wild. I love my chances if it's 5v5. Your top line against our top line. Let's do it. And I think the stats bear that out. Florida's a better team. If Barkov's on the ice, if Forsling's on the ice, and McDavid's on the ice, we're winning that. Yeah. And things have changed. Special teams, shorthanded opportunities, and the fact that Knobloch is putting McDavid on the ice seemingly every time Barkov comes off the ice to try to exploit that, and you're seeing what that results in, 8 points in the last 2 games.
Another conversation that needs to be had. Bob, the last 7 periods, clean it up. That's it.
Yep.
Clean that shit up.
Yeah, no, he's got to
because
be better.
He did that. He did it in the Vegas series. I know we were beat up, a lot of injuries. The Vegas series, he had an epic run up into the Vegas series, and then he kind of farted in that series. I mean, the Conn Smythe. I don't know what are the odds right now because he can't be the favorite.
No,
for the Conn
Connor
Smythe
McDavid
anymore.
is the favorite, and I told you before Game 5, the way that you hedge this is
Should've.
Connor McDavid to win Conn Smythe, not Oilers to win the series because they're the same price. And McDavid is fully capable, if this goes 6, to put in performances to win that trophy in a losing effort and be the first player since Jean-Sebastien Giguère with Anaheim to do so. And right now, he is the odds-on favorite, courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook, to win the Conn Smythe no matter what. That was the hedge, my man.
So if you hedge that, you want a little 2-goal performance from him while the Panthers win. You get a little Conn Smythe and
Hold
a cup.
on a second. I want to analyze some of what it is that Mike Ryan just said and go back a second when you talk about Bobrovsky and remind you, because this is not something you see a lot of from Stanley Cup champions. The Oilers at one point had scored 10 straight unanswered goals in this series. Usually, Bobrovsky is not going to allow 10 straight unanswered goals. And when you talk about changing odds, I haven't looked at them this morning.
He's -200 courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook.
But let me give you, okay, so this is where it was, just so that you know, Conn Smythe odds before Game 5. Bob was -105. Barkov was +105, and McDavid was +600. After Game 5, the last time I looked, I'm not looking at DraftKings odds right now, but Bob +600, Barkov +220, McDavid -160.
At this point, it's now -200 for Connor McDavid, +300 for Barkov, +750 for Bob.
25% of the money is coming in on McDavid.
It's McOverrated, please. Call him by his name.
I want to double down on the bet. I want to put up Greg Cody is right billboards right now. I want to double down on the bet.
Embarrassing. This is an embarrassing look. And there's so many Panther fans that told me at that game, and I relayed it to you, Dan. What did I text you? I've got about a half dozen FUs that I need to relay to you because people are not mad at Greg Cody because they know Greg Cody is a goof. They're mad at you for goofing around and tugging on Superman's cape and playing with fire and doing all these things that work against us. It's not just about the jinx. It's not just about that. Yes, I have superstitions. Most sports fans do. I don't want to dismiss that out of pocket. It's about celebrating your own ignorance and bringing shame to this market. You're the biggest show in the market, and you want to make this whole thing a circus when I want to talk about, do we bring in Nick Cousins to the fourth line or not?
Mike, I understand that one of the many places that you and I have misaligned over the course of this week is that you want to do a vastly different show than the one I want to do. But if this show isn't a 20-year celebration of our ignorance, I don't know what to put in front of people as a celebration of our ignorance. So look, I understand you don't like the silliness of this that happens to give access to people who don't want to hear about hockey on our show the way they've been hearing about it more than they have in the last 20 years. I understand why you don't want to celebrate Greg Cody rattling the cage of the best player in the world, a historically great player. But you're denying me my favorite joke, and I didn't do everything I've done over the last 3 years to have from inside my company the inability to tell my favorite joke.
The only thing I've stood in the way of so far, to my knowledge, again, the walls are plastered with Cody memes right now. The only thing to my knowledge, I wanted to stop the shirts from being sold. The only thing I've been able to stop is by saying, I will quit this company if you put up billboards, because I think that's a bridge too far. And like, you guys are just going to do what you want to do, and I want to make it about hockey. I've been hard at work over the last few months trying to establish a timeline of this show, like for the first real time, like down to the minutia of what's happened to this show for the last 20 years. Yes, we've had a handful of championships to celebrate, and throughout that, we've celebrated our own ignorance too. But we've also given you analytics experts talking about the corner three in important matchups. We've given you the hijinks, but we've also given you thoughtful guests. We've also given you interviews that don't circle around us. And I feel like I'm not even asking for a 50-50 balance. I want the seesaw tilted way up. I understand this is more of a niche sport than when we had the Heat. 8.5 million people across this continent are watching this game. It's up 61% over the last one. This is something that I'd like to apply some balance to save this market, as they have rally towels that celebrate the fact that we're a punchline internationally. All 6 of us. We don't have fans. We don't deserve this. We don't have hockey IQ. We don't know what we're talking about. And what you're doing is holding up a magnifying glass to that ignorance. And I, as a lifelong Florida Panthers fan, I, as someone who out of high school went to that organization to learn, to want to be a part of it because it was my favorite thing in sports, you're celebrating ignorance at a time where it's a moment of arrival, where it's a moment of legitimacy for a lot of Panthers fans. And I never thought in my entire career, after all this show is done, after it's carried a market and brought it to national prominence, that I'd be through that arena, that entire arena, as this is going on, having the total opposite feeling of the Miami Heat experience, where you were the guy that was defending us. I never thought in a million years that I'd walk through that arena and get screamed at F Dan Le Batard. That's what's happened here, and that's an embarrassment.
You can imagine my surprise that you're getting screamed F Dan Le Batard when, again, you guys were here when Greg Cody said this. I, admittedly, while in Los Angeles, did have delight when it came across my doorstep that Greg Cody had said it, because it's so patently ridiculous, and because I knew that he wouldn't recognize McDavid if he walked into his house with the uniform on, number and everything, and I just took the name off the back. Greg Cody wouldn't know who that human being is. The fact that that is what represents our show to Canada that invented hockey brings me great delight, because it's so stupid, because it's so ridiculous. So to have all
You haven't done enough though? Like you've gotten it. It's being talked about by the people covering the game. Like,
Mike, you're
against my best wishes, like you've done what you wanted to do.
You're a degenerate gambler. Do you stop when you're winning? Like what? Do you stop?
I hedge. I hedge.
Okay, but
where's your hedge?
You're hedging now. You're preventing me from doing the thing I want to do. I want to double down on the stupidity.
Dan needs McDonough to say it. You need McDonough to say it.
You're not satisfied, and it's what is it that you're not able to do? It's just the billboards?
I haven't been able to do a live watch party. I've been wanting to do
Well,
them
the people
for
that are
2
capable
weeks.
of talking hockey want to be at the games, want to be around this. Like I said,
Those are
like
people I pay to work to do a job that builds a startup
all right,
company.
cool. Pay me extra for the Friday to take me away from.
I'll
from
pay
my plans.
everyone extra here right now to just go right from now
Also,
through
Dan,
the end of the game tomorrow.
Also, Dan, like,
nonstop.
don't be hurt by this because I think I already articulated it quite well a few seconds ago.
Do you?
I don't.
Why don't you take a victory lap? Why don't we get you to do a victory lap about how well you
No,
articulated
I
that?
think the Superman leotard guy was in his car with his whole cape and the Ric Flair lookalike, and they were slow clapping along what I
Muscle
told
Man.
you. Dan,
That's Superman guy.
don't be hurt by this, but I want to be around people that care and don't want to make a joke out of this. I don't want to be here.
Okay.
I don't want to be here as my team has a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
So let me
I'm
explain.
kind of with him on that.
I want to be with the people that have been in the trenches with me.
The
people that talked about Michael Frolik glowingly.
The idea of being in this studio for a Panthers playoff loss and having indifferent Billy and Tony behind me just really doesn't do
taking the
anything
piss.
for
What is
me.
that supposed to mean?
guys
That was
taking
a
the
cheap
piss.
shot for no reason.
What is that supposed? I've been locked in on this series.
Tony's here.
I don't need you guys making more of a mockery around like my passion and my caring. And you've made it plenty. You're doing it right now. I know I'm a cog in the machine. I don't want to keep doing it. And I certainly don't want to be doing it during the game.
Mike, this
Superfan Matt.
is the best thing in sports. What the Panthers are presently in the middle of. You've been hyperventilating around here for 2 seasons about how great the hockey has been all season. You were scared of a dozen teams this season that you thought were as good as the Panthers. And through the playoffs, your team has been better than any of them. And now they run up against a historic giant playing suddenly like the most historic giant. That's the best. It's the very best thing. When you tell me I don't care.
It was always the best.
When
It was
you-
always the best. It was the best in Game 4.
Mike-
And I'm not going to give you the fear that you're looking for. I think if the Panthers play their best game and they somehow magically find a way to not surrender a 1-0 lead via the shorthanded goal, I actually think the Panthers are going to win this game.
Oh, that was pathetic the way you delivered that. That didn't have any strength behind it. You're so scared. Tony, Chris Cody just came in here concerned about me, asking me if I should sit down and stuff because he said I was breathy. I was very breathy in the first
You were scared,
segment.
Dan. I understand.
I am scared, and I am bothered as well. It's not just fear. I'm bothered as well by Mike care shaming me when I care. Like to care the way Maximum Fan cares, and to pale in comparison to Maximum Fan does not make my care insufficient. I'm not rooting for Game 7 overtime. I'd prefer they just win. But if you give me Game 7 overtime, thank God. It's the best of the things.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I think you won a Game 7.
You've texted me quite the opposite.
There are prisms.
No. I did not text you quite the. You know what? I'm going to read this text exchange because I'm tired of the way you're behaving. Like I'm gonna.
You sound like a father.
No, but I'm furious at him because
Send him to timeout.
I sound like a father because he's threatening to run away from home. Like I'm trying to sit here.
I've lived in this place for 20 years. I'm over it.
I know.
They don't usually actually run away.
He's threatening to.
Just
Run
gonna
away
run to
from
the
that
corner,
seat.
Biscayne.
That's the furthest away I've ever been able to get. And if Chris decides to call them soccer games, I'm properly screwed.
I am going to try and find the beginning of this text string because he has been basically stubborn and awful for a couple of days.
While you find it, Dan,
Me or you?
There are care prisms, okay? I think Mike, there's a care prism that is fandom. Your prism is for content. You care.
You're fandom.
You want the best content for the show, I think.
Yeah.
That's the difference here, I think, in all
we've,
this.
we've struggled to meet the moment, and
no.
now I think we're doing it in an annoying fashion that, again, Dan, like, that had to cut you a little bit. Like, you're not known as the guy that's like the Panther guy that's taking it to them and, yeah, this is our fight for respect. You're part of the machine that's against us. Wow.
So this is what just happened. This was the back and forth on the text. Mike Ryan writes in, lovingly, about a half dozen bleep yous I've been asked to relay. This is from the arena.
Yeah, I think you can understand that does come from a place of love.
Just passing along a message.
And I was saying, will be some fun when they win Game 7. And then I said, or this third period.
Yeah.
Kick, save, and beat.
And then Mike says, you're never going to get it, dick. That's what it says right here. Like that's so that's me.
Yeah. I think there was a space between "you're never going to get it" and "dick," which means I marinated on it, and then I decided, nah,
this
hit him with
this
the
is
dick.
right after the game, though. It's an emotional time right after the game.
No, I think this is as it's happening.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. This was the second period. They were
Emotional
down.
time.
No, they were down 4-2. Hey, not going to believe in my team. Not going to believe that they're better in the third period, even though they've been better in the third period. Oh, look who they have to get over. The overrated guy. They got to get past the overrated. Oh, he's going to make it difficult. Isn't that historically fascinating? That McDavid might be denied a trophy by a team no one in North America wants to win except Sunrise.
There you go. That's what you got to lean into. You're the underdog. You're the guy that is clamoring for respect among the international hockey media, and instead you're just giving them all this ammunition to make more fun.
I'm not giving them the ammunition. I'm going to play this clip from ESPN last night. Again, I have not said that McDavid is overrated. I do not endorse that opinion in any way. It's asinine. But look at what happens to me in the giggling on ESPN because I'm always taking the hits for you guys.
Connor McDavid saying it now, and he's doing it on the biggest stage. Please buckle up.
Yeah, I'm buckled
Don't
already.
get me going.
As
He's
you
all
know.
world, this guy.
I think
Crazy.
overrated. Wait, did someone
Yeah,
say overrated?
overrated.
What's going on? Dan Le Batard. Are we living in an altered world? Or
Whose
what?
hit are you
Oh, my
taking?
goodness.
Whose hit are you absorbing? You're absorbing your own hit. Like you're not.
I didn't say he's overrated. I would never.
We had both of them on the show, and it's all we asked them about.
Yeah, man.
I didn't say it.
Dan, can you put me where you were mentally when you heard your name on the broadcast, or were you watching on mute?
I was horrified when it was sent to me. I wasn't watching the game because I don't care that much. That's not true. I'm just fooling around.
I think your emotional connection to this is you know how much Roy cares about it. You know how much Chris cares about it. You certainly know how much I care about it.
Me too.
And you want to see us happy, but you also want to get your jokes in
Right.
along the way. And your jokes are hurting us.
It can be both. Once they've won, you won't remember the jokes.
But if they lose, will you say sorry?
Like,
will you say sorry if we lose the next two?
You have already ruined this to a degree for me.
You don't understand. If I'm still confident. If we lose this series, I was gonna make my dad apologize to me. And I was gonna make him mean it. And now you're in that category. No. It was just gonna be my dad. And now you're going to have to apologize too. If you're okay with that, fine.
You say
Apologies don't. People say them.
No,
and
I was
they
going
don't
to
mean
pull him
them.
aside in a moment of just between us two, and I'm just like, you hurt me.
Mean it.
Mean it.
Speaking of apologies and meaning it, because this is funny. When you say you think I want you and Roy to feel good, Roy is now headed to Edmonton. Again, 4 different flights. He's headed back there.
How many?
Again, 4. Happy Juneteenth to Roy yesterday. I wanted to do a show. That's another thing I was denied, by the way. That's the universe's sense of humor, the cosmos, me making the black people work on Juneteenth or trying to for hockey, which is what I wanted to do after that loss because I was so fired up. But when you say wanting you guys to win for you, Taylor told me that Stugotz said to Roy, pulled him aside the other day and said, Roy, I'm really rooting for you. I'm really going to be happy for you. I want you to win the next game. And then someone told Stugotz nearby, Stugotz, if the Panthers lose, we have the day off on Wednesday. And he walked out saying, go Oilers. He actually said, "Go."
Then Roy hacked his Twitter account.
I'm not even. What happened there? What happened with Stugotz's Twitter
Stugotz's
account?
password absolutely is password.
Password,
That's what happened.
Password 1.
Put it on the poll, please. At Le Batard Show, is Stugotz's password? What happened? How did he get? What is the backstory on him getting hacked?
I don't know. It's a legacy account, so it's like anything. All our data is just being sold on the dark web, and they found a mark. And does he even know he's been hacked? I don't even think he knows. Where is he?
The Zaslow clip that we have, thankfully, one reasonable person out there doesn't blame me for this ridiculous take. But Zaslow is in a position where he will never forgive Greg Cody. Let's listen to an insane Zaslow infuriated with Greg Cody again.
Maybe it doesn't make a difference, but McDavid knows. I mean, they told the story how McDavid's father knows. He knows about Greg Cody. He knows that he said it. Connor McDavid knows it's not going to, maybe nothing happens, but maybe something happens. It certainly doesn't help with that bullshit. I'm telling you, if the Panthers don't win this series, I'll never forgive Greg Cody. It's 1,000,000 times worse than the Trade Marino article. 1,000,000 times worse. I will never forgive him.
Mike.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. It
I
is
won't
1,000,000
either.
times. It is what he becomes remembered for in this market. He's the guy that decided it was a good idea before the Stanley Cup final to give the best player on the planet by what would appear to be a wide margin now bulletin board material.
What a legacy for Greg Cody.
It's such a comeback for his
think
career,
about that.
dude. I'm
That's
telling you.
huge.
I'm impressed by it. Because I didn't think my dad could ever write anything. I don't want to be mean. I just thought I didn't know he could get on the main
fastball was
broadcast.
past him. That's what it was.
I never
He got his fastball one more time.
sold his ignorance short. I always thought he's so primed for aggregation.
I've been telling
But I
him-
didn't think he would be with McDavid.
I've been telling him to do this for years. Say the thing.
He must be
It
so
doesn't
mad.
matter.
He must be so mad that they're blaming Dan and not him by name, right? He wants
getting
his name behind it on the broadcast.
He's loving. He's mad that Steve Levy, in a skin tone that I would maybe describe as elbow room red. He's mad that he said Dan Le Batard and not Greg Cody.
Right.
Yeah, because if he wants this to be all about him, but the truth is bubbling to the surface. Dan is the puppet master.
Stugotz, I have nothing to do with it. Stugotz called it Boca Beach Club red on Steve Levy. Greg Cody will be in with us tomorrow because we are going to pregame show it the way I really do want to do it. Nobody here wants to do it with me, but I really
Go
do.
with a pregame show.
I know you guys aren't good with a 48-hour pregame show, but I believe we.
Yeah, a hockey pregame show of Dan Le Batard and Greg Cody is like Stugotz leading a pregame show on foreign policy.
You might be surprised.
I am tired of your hockey elitism and snobbery. You're not welcoming of
No.
No. This is what you do, and you have been someone who snorts 40 hockey podcasts a day and then shame the person who's snorting 38 of them because they're not doing as much as you are, because you want to maximum care and be somebody who's caring more than Bill Zito. Let's play the video there of an enraged Bill Zito throwing shit because everyone's crazy, because I simply can't believe, as much as I can't believe that Greg Cody finds himself in the middle somehow of the Stanley Cup final. I can't believe after 30 years, as you do this to me, okay? I'm the one who flew to Doug McClain's parents' house to watch them lose the Stanley Cup in Prince Edward Island.
Well, so for Game 4 in '96, you were in McClain's parents' house?
Yes, I was at McClain's parents' house, and I have cared.
That's a bona fide if I've ever heard one.
I've cared about this team for as long as you have cared about this team. And for about 28 of those years, they broke my caring because Pavel Bure would get to the playoffs and then they'd get swept, and it wouldn't matter that they had Pavel Bure. To watch that team play the best in the sport.
The Russian Rocket.
And enrage Canada. Because nobody who respects hockey wants the Panthers to win, even though the Panthers are playing exactly playoff hockey. I respect this franchise so much, Stugotz. I've seen the last couple of days here, okay? Monty Williams gets fired, and they say when you're hiring...
That was an interesting verbal tick. Did you recognize what happened as it happened? You said you addressed Stugotz as if he were in the studio.
It's amazing. What an incredible moment.
Can you get me the sound of Stugotz's soundboard to just help me lightly so that when I do that, it's not quite so obvious that he's not here? Just general sounds from him so that I can have the loving soothing of me.
I've always heard of like old AM radio DJs like giving time and temp in the middle of like real life conversations.
There are times I'm arguing with people out in public and I'll say Stugotz when they're not Stugotz just because that's what gets triggered when I'm arguing.
You can't be doing this to Florida Panthers fans. 4 past the hour.
Now you've distracted me on what it is that I was saying, and
you were talking about how much you've cared for this organization and how you stopped caring after a while. And my whole thing in hearing you is I do actually think while most like the Panthers come into this with a reputation really built over last year. If you watch them this year, Matthew Tkachuk in particular, and this team, they're far more disciplined. Yeah, they had penalty minutes and they were among the leaders, but they're not the same kind of team. They have some maturity, and I do think for the most part, people were impressed by them, their composure this postseason, and we're actually rooting for them against Canada. And you've made You've made us a team that was just starting to turn the corner in terms of likability. You've made them very unlikable.
I've made them that.
Yeah, no, and our fans too. Like there were people booing the Canadian national anthem. That nothing pisses me off more than that. You get 3 people booing that thing, and it becomes a thing, and rightfully so.
I honestly thought we were going to be worse with that.
Yeah,
I had such low expectations for us. I thought we were going to be because they're very respectful.
Yeah,
like,
super
to ours. So.
You know, you're going to run into like some of the act like you've been there before when we literally never have. But I think this show hasn't exactly met the moment. I think our fans could meet the moment a little bit better, and I really hate that a team that is so susceptible to pot shots is giving people that are so wanting to deliver those all the ammunition that they need.
I remembered what I was going to say. I was talking about Monty Williams being fired after 1 year, and they tell you to hire people slowly and fire them quickly. But in sports all the time, and this is your frustration with the Heat at the moment, the changes get made too slowly. So I really respect that those 28 years of hockey that were mediocre then produced a season that was the most overwhelming offensive season that the sport has ever seen during the regular season. They got choked out in the playoffs. I would have run it back with that team because most teams would. They wouldn't blow it up that fast. Boston had to lose a couple of times before they traded Marcus Smart. They blew it up so fast and were rewarded for blowing it up.
I think that was a special moment in time. Like people from the national media have reached out to me, like I guess in preparation for if the Panthers win, like because I'm proud that people would approach me as like a voice of the fan, and that was an interesting moment in time, that Huberdeau move, because you could see we were so starved to be in that conversation that guys like Chris Whittingham, they took that very difficult. The tweet is still up announcing the trade, and if you go through the replies to that, it's fairly embarrassing in retrospect. That's a moment in time where our cumulative hockey IQ started to turn, because for our entire existence, outside of a flash in the pan that happened way too easily for us in '96, we were always 5 points out of the final playoff spot with 2 games in hand.
Get the table.
And we were so desperate to just finally be there. We hadn't won a series in close to 30 years. And you finally get that far. You think that you've arrived, and they pull the rug out from under you, and I just bought a Huberdeau jersey, which is what happened to Chris Whittingham. That's it. They had this fun offense. I finally rediscovered a passion for hockey, and they're ripping it away. And then we realize now, through 2 postseasons, why they had to make that move. I was proud of us learning, myself included. I didn't have a frozen pond in my backyard. I got to listen to podcasts to understand what it is that I'm watching. I got to see stuff off the puck. I got to count on other people to see those things and explain it to me, so I can, because I have a thirst for knowledge for this game, because the more I care about it, the more knowledgeable I want to be. And Dan Le Batard and Greg Cody want hijinks, and I'm cool with it. I get it.
I want hijinks too, Mike.
No. You want
Mike,
exclusive hijinks.
Mike, no,
exclusive.
I want Mike,
the exclusive domain of hijinks.
I want to talk about how great that third period was. Even though they lost the third period, I want to talk about how great 4-on-4 is. I want to talk about how great it is to call embellishment instead of flopping, and everyone in hockey being so noble about it. It's why they get pissed off about the McDavid stuff. In this sport, you don't do stuff that's disrespectful, like embellish. It's not honorable.
That embellishment call, come on that.
This is the second time the Oilers have...
Good call.
It was
embellishment every play.
I don't know how you embellish on a penalty that you draw, right? Like, you draw the penalty, they're saying that you're faking to draw the penalty, but they're still calling the penalty. The Oilers there was a former Panther, Mason Marchment, who got cross-checked in the lower back and responded in kind, as anyone would. It was a penalty for cross-checking. He also gets sent to the box with an ice pack on his lower back. Embellishment. I don't understand that. It's either embellishment or a penalty. I don't necessarily understand how it's both.
The third period was wonderful. It was so physical.
6 shots for the Oilers there.
You can make the argument from the 10-minute mark in the second period, the Panthers
That's right.
dominated that game.
And it was all about puck possession for them, because we talked about the gulf in speed. One team looked really tired in the first portion of that game, and it was the Florida Panthers, because it's been said on one of the 40 podcasts that I listened to that the hardest thing in team sports to do physically is kill off a penalty, because of the stress that you put on your quads, on your core, the fact that you have to make up so much more ice because one person isn't there. It makes all the difference in the world. And we had several times this postseason, we've had our penalty kill unit on there for the entirety in our zone for 2 full minutes, no ability to clear the puck. And you saw Sam Reinhart struggle to get to a puck that was just at the faceoff dot because he's got nothing left. And I thought, oh man, how do they look so spry? How are you going to close this gap? Puck control, forcing a puck battle, dragging them into the mud and playing your game. You could see Florida growing into the game. They neutralized that offense. 6 shots. That Sam Bennett opportunity there, where most of the barn thought that was in. Like, you could see it there, and that's why I think Bill Zito was so frustrated in that this team is so close, and they haven't actually had to be scared this postseason. It has been relatively charmed to that effect.
No, it's here. The fear is here.
Oh, it's certainly here. No doubt about that.
And I will continue to argue that it ends up making everything better. When you talk about the penalty kill, Edmonton has killed all. They came into this series having killed 30 straight penalties. The Panthers end up looking pretty incompetent on the penalty. I don't think there's quite a better feeling in that sport than scoring when you're shorthanded. I don't know that there's much worse feeling than allowing a goal when you have the man advantage. The fact that Chris Cody is saying that on the power play, when they get a man advantage in this series, that the Panthers are -1 goal, that stat couldn't be more stunning for a team leading 3-2 in the final. Like, it's not just that stat exists. It exists with, and the Oilers have scored 10 straight goals unanswered during a period in the series, and the Panthers are still up 3-2 because of how weird the first 3 games were when you were actually able to hold down an offense and a power play that doesn't get held down. It doesn't get held down. Edmonton's power play scores. They are exceptional at it. There is nothing good enough to kill the Edmonton power play. And you've got people in the arena actually asking what Billy Gill broke the story on, which is, can we decline a man advantage, please? And then they score a shorthanded goal.
It truly is amazing to have random fans of the show and just friends of mine walk up and ask that question in all seriousness after we discussed it 2 days before. But Dan, when you talk about Edmonton's power play, there was a stretch dating back to the previous series. Edmonton started 14 for 30 on their power play in this postseason, so almost at 50%. They went 5 for their next 30, including those first 10 against the Panthers. So it was the Panthers penalty kill, but it was also Edmonton was struggling on the power play, and now they're starting to get things going. And when momentum starts to switch in hockey, it is a little different than basketball. It isn't always that, hey, the best team is ultimately going to win here. Momentum means a lot, and that's why all of these jinxes and all of these things are bothering everybody so much.
Okay, Sid Cichero said before Game 5, our illustrious Sid Cichero said that if McDavid wins this game, he is winning the series. I believe a lot of people think that the entire series shifted because Edmonton was. I believe that a lot of people listening to this think that Edmonton is up 2-3.
That's a good thing, though. That means the pressure is shifting. Like, the last 2 games were carefree.
Oh, no. Be clear on this. You blow a 3-0 lead in this sport, the pressure is on you.
Oh, no.
Like
the pressure. I'm not saying there's no pressure.
The pressure of being a historic laughing stock is on you.
But 3-0 and 3-1, you're carefree. We're already kind of done with this series. Now that it's 3-2 back in Edmonton, everyone, like you just said, is thinking that it has flipped. That does even out the pressure a little bit. I'm not saying that the Panthers aren't more pressure. They've lost. The
pressure is at max for everybody.
No, but I think that, dude, down up like that Game 4, they're carefree. They're just like, with this series,
they're assuming that they can stroll into that barn. And
there's pressure now for Edmonton,
and that energy of that crowd will carry them, and that this series has shifted to the tune of 80% of the betting handle being on Edmonton right now, because most people think that with Edmonton winning Game 5. They've unlocked something here. And to a degree they've had. Tactically, they've unlocked that Connor McDavid should be on the ice all the time when Barkov isn't, because that's how valuable Barkov has been. And now it's on Paul Maurice to play the game of chess a little bit and match that. I think I like where the Panthers are positioned. I liked how they closed Game 5. I know that the approach to this game, if there's jinxing aside, one thing that I can guarantee you.
Jinxing. God almighty, please stop with the jinxing.
I'm literally casting it aside. So please, let me finish my point. Jinxing aside, one thing that I have 100% confidence in is that the effort will be there for the Florida Panthers. And that's fine. Edmonton may be good enough to meet that. But I know that the Panthers are going to be playing a good game on Friday night.
I don't know why it is that you guys would think at this point, given what everyone has gone through to get here and what we know about the hockey season, that everyone is physically broken. And this particular hockey season, which has been magnificent. I don't know why you guys don't think that pressure and effort is at the maximum of wherever it is that human pressure and effort reside in sport.
Because the players are telling us so in post games. Yeah, no, that it kind of got to us. We saw they flew our family in for Game 4, and we kind of were a little jaded to start that game. And they came out flat in Game 5 for whatever reason, and they turned it on there. I think that the Panthers, having the last 2 results, are going to be fine on Friday in terms of effort. And now Edmonton's got to find that extra motivation. There's plenty of motivation when you're facing elimination, especially in Game 4. I don't know if that dissipates a little bit. I don't know if momentum actually carries when you have like a 72-hour gulf in between.
I just don't buy any of this. These people want to win the most that you can maximum want to win.
They're human, dude. They're human. Like, if you're up 3-0,
yeah, but Mike,
you can kind of think, you can be lulled into thinking we're so much better than these
It's why
guys.
Ray Allen was so mad about the yellow ropes, right? It's like, get those out of here, because he's the underdog looking at a team that's resting on their laurels saying, hey, we're going to win. And it changes your mentality. You're a human being.
And good luck finding anyone in hockey that's not going to speak about the mental aspects of this game and not actually assign that stuff real value.
No, you can give it value, and I can say they're giving maximum effort, and then Ekman Larson forgets with 18 seconds left because he's human. I am indeed winded, breathless, scared, and sweating an inordinate amount. It is not because I'm standing. It is because Connor McDavid is that kind of scary. You have to beat the best in order to win that trophy. And what exceptional punctuation it would be either way on this story. Either way. What exceptional punctuation to the season. If Connor McDavid somehow comes back with a historic, unprecedented comeback, that would be amazing. And if the Florida Panthers win the title over Connor McDavid playing that way, it would be amazing. But imagine my frustration yesterday, okay? Because that really happened with Stugotz. He said to Roy, hey, Roy, I'm rooting for you. And then they told him, no, we'll have the day off tomorrow if the Panthers lose and we're not celebrating a title. And he just walked out the door, and the echo was, go Oilers. That's the last thing that people heard, and we haven't seen Stugotz since. Imagine my frustration yesterday, Wokatard, on Juneteenth, trying to get Roy and Carl and everyone else yesterday to work because I thought we should do a show for our fans.
Happy Juneteenth.
I really did think we should do a show yesterday because of that loss and how it went for Greg Cody.
Happy Juneteenth.
And you can imagine my like.
Is that Carl?
Yes, Roy.
Happy Juneteenth.
Roy forgot to do it. Yeah. Carl worked all day yesterday making flights to Edmonton, trying to plan trying to plan live watch parties.
I almost went to Edmonton. That almost happened. Here I am.
We're going to do tomorrow a show with Greg Cody here. I'm not kidding you when I say that I would be fine doing a pregame show from now until the end of that game. I know we can't do it and we won't do it because you're not allowed to do that to your employees. It's a human resource problem, but you do understand that I yesterday was actually trying to figure out how we could ignore a national holiday as a company. That's something that happened. Also, something that's happening is that people are writing in that Whitty is smiling, that Chris Whittingham is smiling. There is simply no way that Chris Whittingham is allowed to smile when his reaction to Tkachuk being traded for was this.
I would like to disappear in the playoffs again. We won't be in the playoffs because of empty stats, Matthew Tkachuk. The coach came in is like, the style is going to change. We're going to play playoff hockey in the regular season. Listen, pal, if you're 6 points, you're 6 points out of the final playoff spot, you're not playing playoff hockey in the playoffs.
Trying to play a more playoff style type of hockey. That's what he said.
Of nonsense. Playoff style.
Are you going to play playoff style from home?
I'm still offended at the opening night broadcast from the Florida Panthers when they came out and said, we got to sell what we did in this offseason to the fans. And so what we're going to do is we're going to tell everyone we're going to play playoff style hockey in the regular season to get you ready.
Jesus.
And then to go right back to being outside of the final play. I'm offended. I'm still offended. It's so arrogant. There's so much hubris in. You guys were playing that little tippy-tappy fun stuff in the regular season. That stuff isn't we're gonna play. We're gonna play man hockey now. After that unprecedented success, we're done with it.
Why did they break the team up?
They didn't break the team up.
They didn't break the team up. They changed the style. They changed coaches.
They broke the team up.
You and Huberdeau, you just won't get over this. They won that trade.
Has been way better than
Huberdeau. Go look what Huberdeau was doing this year.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Eric Saul has as many goals as Jonathan Huberdeau.
It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. Like Matthew Tkachuk's got a bunch of empty stats out of the playoffs.
Empty stats.
Give the empty stats.
Pretty awesome.
Huberdeau does the empty stats.
What are you talking about empty stats?
Yeah, they're empty if you don't win.
No,
They don't win games. I have no feeling towards this team. None. They ripped the soul out of it.
This has been every hockey season. We check in at about now.
Which is, to Zazzle's point, exactly why it's so fucking ridiculous that they broke the team up. Yeah. You were saying you changed stylistically and you swapped superstars to a player who does not match the style that you had before. He's not a much better player. They lose terrible games. They're not fun to watch. They don't have any discernible style. They play like all the other hockey teams. And in the middle of it, there's a very standout individual who is getting his stats, but is very clearly not helping the team win with those stats. Listen, pal.
It is so brutal. I don't know. Is that as bad as the montage that's been put together on Gasbags, who were talking about the Celtics during the season and getting all of it wrong?
And here's what I'm going to tell you today. I got the Dallas Mavericks.
I think there's going to be a parade in Dallas.
Who'd you guys really beat, though? Who'd you really beat?
I have Dallas. I think Dallas will win.
Dallas. I got Dallas winning. I think Dallas is deeper.
I don't think Boston is deep at all.
I like Dallas in this series.
It's an easy choice for me.
Dallas. The Boston Celtics have not seen anything close to what Dallas Mavericks are doing. The two best players on this floor will be Luka and Kyrie.
Just a very good team that could get to the finals but won't win it.
Shh. And here's what I'm going to tell you today. I got the Dallas Mavericks.
I think there's going to be a parade in Dallas.
Who'd you guys really beat, though? Who'd you really beat?
I have Dallas. I think Dallas will win.
Dallas. I got Dallas winning. I think Dallas.
So nice. We played it twice.
Don't know why we did that. Instead of talking about Tua here and the fact that he's going to get Trevor Lawrence money, instead of talking Calais Campbell or some really important stuff going on behind the scenes with the ACC and the University of Miami, because the Panthers are dominating everything, I legitimately want to ask you guys the question of the last time that you felt like this, because the heat of Jimmy Butler against Denver didn't feel like this. I have to go back 10 years to the feeling that I presently have right now.
I have to go back 12 months to when the Miami Heat blew a 3-0 lead.
That's exactly right.
And had a buzzer beater do them in Game 6 to make them go to Boston
it was horrible.
For a Game 7. That was worse than what I feel right now. I understand why people are nervy. I understand, like, you kind of feel alive and you're scared. I'm not quite there because, honestly, and I don't mean to blow smoke here, like, they're a game away from lifting Lord Stanley. We said, worst case scenario, they've got at least 2 chances at home to close this thing out. Even if it goes 7, you're going to be favored in that game. I understand Game 7, all bets are off. You just lost 3 straight to Edmonton, who tends to rip off these crazy runs after they lose 3 games. But I'm excited for Friday night because my team is going to play well in a game that they can lift Lord Stanley. I am not going to give you what you want. I was bummed because that was very expensive, but I am not running scared. I like my team here.
Oh, no, you're doing something here that I'm not doing because you're making comparisons on just fear, and that's not what I'm talking about here. You'll notice in that montage about the Celtics that last year I never predicted that the Miami Heat would beat Denver because I didn't think the Miami Heat was going to win the championship last year. I've watched this team all year in the Panthers. They're good enough to win the championship.
Amen.
No, but I've been saying that part. I didn't think the Heat ever were good enough to actually win the championship. What happened to them against Denver is what I thought was going to happen to them against Denver. And the reason I say
the real championship was the Eastern Conference Finals.
The reason that I say that it didn't feel like this feels is because I now believe that the rest of the country wants something that South Florida does not want.
I would be, if I were a neutral, and I've been a neutral plenty, just give me more hockey. Give me more hockey. I'm always team give me more hockey.
But I'm not talking about give me more hockey, though that too, of course, storylines, drama, stakes, put all of that on it. But you so rarely know that you're watching history when you're in it. This season, Mike, it's one of the best seasons. The ratings have skyrocketed because everyone knows the quality of the play from the top 10 teams. We were all looking at the top 10 teams and saying all of those teams can beat each other in the postseason.
From individual performances, to just echo your point, Dan, like if you look at the early 2000s, the points leaders, and you compare it to the individual brilliance that we've seen from the game's superstars this year, where like the guy that's 37th in points in the NHL, it's something ridiculous like that this season, would have won. Would have had the most points in the mid to early 2000s, to having 10 teams or approximately 10 teams above 100 points. It has been a massive achievement to get to this point, to have 2 teams be head and shoulders better than everybody else when everybody else is so good in this league is a monumental achievement. I can't help but watch that Celtics video with envy. Them taking their victory lap because...
Should we watch it again?
No, I don't want to see it for a third time.
Thrice.
Because, this is... I haven't been a Boston hater And thankfully, I haven't seen too many social videos from their celebration down here in Miami, which makes me believe that people refuse service.
Luther Campbell is furious at everyone in Miami who has even allowed the Boston Celtics to land and have a drink.
Yeah. One of my dear friends operates Space. He told me, like, if Space were open, we'd straight up tell them no. Joe Cronin's not allowed to step foot in Space. Like,
the Boston Celtics could not spend 12 hours celebrating with their own fans.
It was pretty funny. But I watched that video, and I'm going to make it about my team and the Panthers. Can you imagine this postseason run not having to go through Vasilevsky, not having to go through Swayman, not having to go through Shesterkin, and then when you get to the finals, Connor McDavid has an upper body injury? That is what the Boston Celtics got to celebrate.
And you were rooting for a McDavid injury in game.
No. I put it. No. I wasn't rooting for it. I wasn't rooting for it.
That's crazy.
I was just asking Mike Schur if he wanted to consider how valuable an injury would be to the opposing team's best player in this moment, because that's what he lived through the entire postseason. 2 months of, wow, we just show up and their best player is out. Incredible.
The reason that I say that this feels to me like 10 years ago Heat isn't just the stakes of everybody in the country, and in this case it's everyone in North America wants something different than what is wanted down here. It's also, I'm watching Gretzky, and I know I'm watching Gretzky, and you gotta beat Gretzky. Like that.
Amen.
Amen. That part of it makes it, like, ratchets all of this up to a place like, are you shitting me? Yeah. The team that wasted the prime of Pavel Bure, is gonna knock off the best any of us have ever seen?
That's why I don't think anyone should be rooting for Florida outside of Florida Panther fans right now, because you've only, in this sport, the last time a team came back, the only other time a team has come back from 3-0 down to win a series was in 1942. People hearing my voice right now, they're not even sure. The internet has rotted everybody's brain that people aren't even sure if the Earth is that old, right? They want to see.
6,000 actually.
Yeah, they don't want to hear about Wayne Gretzky in 1942. They want to see the best player right now. They want to live in those. They want to live in those times. They want to live in that moment. They want to see it for themselves. They want to see the guy that was reputed to be the best player live up to the expectations when they finally got around to paying attention, and they want to see him come back from a 3-0 hole. I get it. I totally get it.
The part that you don't get, though, is how funny it is that the person who has enraged Gretzky is Greg Cody. That Greg Cody is in the middle of what has felt like the last few days. Like when I say to you that it feels like 10 years ago, Heat against everybody, during these postseason statistics that McDavid is putting up, there's nobody saying anything negative about McDavid except one person. And what's happened with all of the NHL media there is when the zombies in a quiet place hear a noise somewhere. PK Subban, you told me, by the way, that he would do this. He was back to saying McDavid's the best player in the world after telling us that Barkov was the best player in the world because he was shutting down McDavid. Now all of the NHL media is rushing toward the one place where one person is saying something stupid, and it's Greg Cody. But it's all they've got, because why would anyone say anything negative about McDavid?
Right.
But
that's why it's funny.
No, that's why it's infuriating.
It's crazy watching how it's shifted since game one, because game one,
Thank
game
God we
two,
got game one.
game
Holy
three,
shit.
all of the pregame, postgame, national analysis, everybody's mentioning that there's rumblings of McDavid being overrated and sort of people expecting him to win. Nobody's saying Greg Cody by name. The moment that the Oilers start winning and it comes with all of this McDavid onslaught, all of a sudden, hey, Dan Le Batard Show, hey, Greg Cody, and they're finally using the names because they were fearful, because at the beginning, the Panthers were headed toward a sweep, and now here we are.
He was still leading point scorer in the series when they were headed to a sweep. I mean, he's a brilliant player, and we tugged on Superman's cape, and
we should keep doing it, and we should keep pulling on it, and we're not going to, unfortunately, because
this is us not doing it.
Dan, I agree. Like, there's a disconnect here. I agree with you that if we win in like this, I will agree that this was the fun way to do it. after we
No,
win.
I want to double down on the
I don't
bet
wanna
now.
do it
There's no
before.
courage in that. I know. You
I had
guys
a
are
car,
afraid. You're
I had a car
adults who are
service
afraid
for
of
game
jinxes.
5.
Adults.
I had a car service for game 5. I was pretty ready to have fun then. It was going to be plenty fun then. I wouldn't have been like sipping champagne at a Stanley Cup.
If only we did this.
You know what would have been better if I waited to next week to have this. No, not at all. There was a national holiday the day after. Game 5 would have been sweet. Would have been sweet.
Let's play for people. A lot of people objected to Jason Tatum saying, and I've seen this a couple of times before. This one's super interesting to me because for a long time, Kobe Bryant, trying to find his own voice, was just copying Michael Jordan. He would admit that in interviews and everything else, he was just copying him. And A-Rod, when he was trying to find his own voice, when he was young, was always asking other people like Michael Jordan and Cal Ripken about how he should behave. Jason Tatum felt like he was summoning previous celebrations. A lot of people noticed this. It felt to people like he wasn't experiencing his own joy, that he was trying to experience joy the way he had seen it expressed by others.
What they gonna say now? What they gonna say now?
I know everybody will wonder what would happen if we didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Now he's kissing the trophy, doing that photo. Now he's doing the pour the champagne.
I hadn't noticed all of this. He also did, like Garnett. He
This is
threw
the
his
one that
head
was
back.
cringe.
Yeah, he threw his head back like Garnett.
We did it!
The I guess we'll never know is ripping off a Kanye Grammy speech.
It just, when it was in this, I was thinking to myself, this feels forced.
The locker room is, what are they going to say now, is what Steph Curry said. It was very much a dude that spent the entire night on YouTube, how to celebrate NBA championship. And he idolizes Kobe. He's very much a product of idolizing these guys. And whether it was subconscious or he was totally present of mind and knew what he was trying to do, like that was a dude that was super impressionable and put these guys, these idols on a pedestal.
And let me acknowledge, we sound like haters right now. We just got to put that out there.
Yeah, of course.
That's all we got.
Him putting his, like, he's bending over, got his head in his hands, and it's like 10 seconds, and you're like, oh, he's going to come up, and he's going to be bawling. And he's not. He was just like, he did that for 10 seconds.
More joy, Tatum. We need more
just
joy.
like-
we need better joy from you, Tatum. Your joy's not good enough.
Don't give off like you're crying in your hands if you're not.
Yeah, the issue too is like, you know how sometimes you think things you're doing or you're doing them for the first time, but then subconsciously you've seen them in the back of your mind from other places. It feels like maybe he was trying to be genuine in those moments, but all he had to replay is his subconscious of other people doing the same thing that he was doing. So it's like he was trying to be genuine. I feel the most genuine he was when he lifted up his kid, and then you see the confetti and pictures.
That was a great photo.
Make it about the kid. Make it about, look what we did together. Look, you're on the court with me. You're drawing up plays like a little coach. Oh my God, it's so cool. Make it about that. Then you have your own legacy with him.
I do understand the whole, it hasn't set in yet. So it's like it hasn't really hit him yet, but it's just, you can't just play that. He's playing the hits.
When I was in first grade playing basketball for Westwood, my winless purple team toppled the undefeated red team. Wow. It was a great game, and we dominated. Wire to wire. Wire to wire.
Who was your coach, Mr. Berger?
I'm not. No. I think I predated Mr. Berger, but I left Miss Biddle's class for this championship game. And what I started doing after I hit shots was the Michael Jordan shrug, because that's all that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. So essentially, Jason Tatum was me in first grade when my purple team toppled the undefeated red team.
Jack Nicklaus is the one that should be getting all of your rage instead of the old guy Greg Cody that you're going after. They replaced Hall of Famer Jason Taylor with 84-year-old Jack Nicklaus, and he hit the drum the way that an 84-year-old would hit the drum. There was not nearly enough behind it. The crowd carried him, but go ahead and play that for the people so they could see how meek this is as an energetic celebration start.
Please welcome 18-time PGA Major winner and golf legend, Jack Nicklaus.
bored and pathetic, Golden
All
Bear.
right, look. Listen, as someone who's in the barn for every game, we judge this thing on two things: energy and rhythm. Energy, poor, admittedly. Okay, he didn't really move. He didn't really engage with the crowd. Mike McDaniel, great in this category. Yes. Now, rhythm, where Dan Marino failed. He had the whole crowd doing a different chant. Jack Nicklaus nailed the actual rhythm of it. Doom, 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 doom. Let's go. So I'm not going, he's an 84-year-old man. How much energy can we expect from him? I give him a B+. The rhythm is fine. That's the most important thing to me. If the crowd can follow, I'm telling you, if the crowd can follow with the chant, on a curve. It's good enough. It was better than Dan Marino. I'm telling you.
I operate on vibes. Wow. I was hoping for more.
Oh, no, it was bad. Everyone around me was
I was rationalizing. I'm like, he was on rhythm, right? That's good enough. And we ended up losing. So
it was more the reaction, before the game, telling my friends, hey, did you know who's doing this? It's Jack Nicklaus. Oh, and he replaced Jason Taylor. Everyone's reaction was like, wait, what?
If the Panthers lose Game 6, we have to rally to get Greg Cody to bang the drum in Game 7, right?
No, Jeremy. He's done enough.
I mean, that could be his redemption. Come on.
Who would be Game 7? We can start playing that game. Dwayne Wade, maybe?
Oh, man.
Well, what happened? I thought you were going to win Game 6. You don't know how to talk about this. You're afraid of
Tell me what I
everything
can
that you
say.
I don't know what you could say because I don't, as an adult and a reasonable, sane human being who isn't crazy, I don't believe that anything that I do has anything to do with whether or not the Panthers or Oilers win a game.
That's where you don't get it.
Yeah, I know. I don't. That
you're not a sports fan.
It's the one spot where I wouldn't overestimate my narcissism and my power.
Okay, you don't believe in any of that stuff. That's fine. But what you are controlling is how the local audience feels about it. And I do think, if I can speak for many people that asked me to relay the FUs that I sent you via text, you are kind of ruining this for people.
And this I've heard a number of different times from people, and what I say to them in relation to this show whenever it is they file this criticism, which is often and is more now than ever, is my responsibility is to the entire audience, not just the South Florida audience. I celebrate South Florida all the time. I represent South Florida all the time. But our show and our audience doesn't talk about hockey for 20 years and suddenly won't shut up about it. And I know I'm alienating the other people who don't like hockey, and so I'm putting a circus tent around it so that when you talk about how they should use Montour on one of the lines, it is draped in Greg Cody's ignorance so that we can have range on what it is that we're doing.
You think we've been rangy?
Not enough, no, but I've wanted to do live parties with you, Roy, and Chris, and you can't come because you're too busy going to the game.
Because we love hockey. Yeah, I've never been this close. Never been this close. It means a lot to me. And like I told you, it hurt me to see fans of the show say, they see me out. I know that people love this show. For them to say screw Dan Le Batard and things to that effect, you've always been, I understand, you have to do a national show. But you've always been prideful in that you take South Florida to the nation. For all the other championship runs, you've never been viewed through this prism right now. And it makes me a little sad.
You want to be a national show, but we did a local New York show for a month.
WFAT! I want to do both. I want to do all of them. And, in fact, I want to do all of them at least in part because we didn't become a national show until all of the teams locally stunk and we were doing a national show locally. That's what we were doing. There was so much shit being done during Dwayne Wade's entire 20 years here by all the other franchises that we became a national show because the local teams stunk. And what I am doing now with everything that we're doing, because we have now spent, and I assure you, the national audience is not enjoying how much we're talking about the Panthers. And Mike says we can't do it enough. And at points during this, I have felt like we are doing over the last 2 years stuff that alienates our audience. And so I'm just trying to give everything that we're doing range while also mocking how stupid some of all of this is. What better joke can we tell than Greg Cody being in the middle of this, calling a historic player not that historic? David Sampson is the host of Nothing Personal. I've told you before, and I will continue telling you, that there are not a lot of people anywhere in business reporting of any kind, never mind sports business, doing what he is doing with sports business subjects, both on Nothing Personal and on the Sporting Class that he does with John Skipper and Pablo Torre. Something that I was waiting to talk to you about, David, all week, even though it was something that we wanted to talk about earlier in the week, is the NFL and its Sunday package lawsuit situation. This is being covered less than I thought it should be covered, given that it seems like a pretty important thing and in America's most popular sport. And I think it's not being covered very well, at least in part because people don't understand how big what's happening is.
When's the last time you saw a commissioner take the stand? You do anything to stop that, and I thought this case would settle. Let's sum it up very quickly and easily. When you get the Sunday ticket, you pay a lot of money and people are upset. So a guy decided to sue, and it's a class action lawsuit where they're saying the NFL is making me pay too much to watch the team I want to watch that's not my local team. The NFL says I can do what I want because I have an antitrust exemption that covers broadcasting agreements, which means I don't need competition. I can charge whatever I want. But what is being claimed is that we're going to break the antitrust exemption because you sold it to a paid TV provider like DirecTV or YouTube. So what's really at stake? What's at stake is, can you pay $20 to watch the Bears when you live in Florida and only the Bears? Or do you have to pay $300 to watch the Bears, which enables you to watch every other team as well?
What do you think's going to happen here, and why did Goodell testify?
Well, it's a court of law.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, I was just going to say he testified because he was told he had to testify. He certainly did not wake up and say, you know what I want to do? I want to be very clear. I'm going to testify. Jerry Jones, same thing. There are broadcasting committees, and you're a witness. And Jerry Jones had a great line when he testified. I don't mind sharing all the TV revenue because they share all the national TV revenue they get. If we didn't share it, I'd certainly get more, because he did like a Sam Weish opposite. We're not the Bengals. That was his line. Roger Goodell's line while testifying was pretty funny. He said, yeah, we charge, but it's premium. And we think the production value is so much greater, talking about his own NFL Network production value. So it's been a pretty big story. I think the NFL will eventually prevail. People are talking about $21 billion in damages because that's the law, because there's a lot of people who paid a lot of money. But I would not start spending the money you've spent on your Sunday ticket package quite yet.
You mentioned what Goodell said. Just to frame it properly, he said the reason why they went elsewhere with the Thursday night package was his own network's production quality wasn't up to snuff. Just to clarify, because it was a little confusing there.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you, but yes, he was trying to sully his own NFL Network production packaging, which of course he's trying to sell the NFL Network, but that's neither here nor there.
So the customers are doing something about it, because the response to the NFL charging like $800 for this package is, well, what are you going to do about it? You're going to pay for it. And throughout this lawsuit, we found out that the NFL turned down a package from ESPN, which was going to offer the entirety of the Sunday ticket for $70, a huge discount from what it's been historically. And on top of that, they were going to provide single market packages. Okay, you only use Sunday ticket because you want to see your Bengals. You have a package that's just the Bengals. And the NFL would have made plenty of money from this, but they decided, no, we want the consumer to pay more because we have this premium idea for this premium brand, and we want to keep it premium. That is really unfair to the consumer. That is also free market capitalism, even though ESPN had a very competitive offer. There is nothing else that the consumer can do. We just have to sit back, watch this, and hope people realize, okay, you'll get some kind of measly little settlement that maybe a fraction of you will actually try to chase, and maybe a fraction of you are even aware of. There's no other recourse here in this country for the NFL essentially price gouging, right?
Of course there is. You could not buy the product.
There's no actual recourse.
That's ridiculous. That's asinine.
Yeah,
what are you talking? That's asinine. That's not something that can happen. It's not possible. We have to buy that product. What are you talking about?
It's like you're saying it's though they're charging for oxygen.
They are. They are.
I got a site, guys. Don't worry.
I must tell you that I don't exactly view it the way you're viewing it, because consumers always have the ultimate recourse. They always get to vote with their wallets. If enough people did not buy the package, the price would definitionally come down, but it just doesn't happen that way. And as for the $70, that's why you don't want to ever go to trial, because there's something called discovery. And unless you have a great email retention policy, which Metalark Media does have, where you're wiping away emails all the time, in discovery, you find out the back and forth, you find out negotiating stances. The NFL, to turn down ESPN selling something for $70, they did that because they had the ability to sell that package for more money, not to the consumers, to the entities who were buying the package. So I don't want to say that the NFL was being mean to the fans, although I'd love to, but that's not really what happened.
The Panthers have a giant Game 6 on Friday night. What are the financial stakes involved with the end of the Stanley Cup final?
Well, are you asking, are they quietly rooting to host a Game 7?
I'm not asking that, but you took it there. How much is a Game 7 worth?
A Game 7 is worth mid-7 figures just for the game. But no, it's not worth it because you could lose. So you want to win the cup, because the cup is going to be worth, let's say, $50 million in revenue, in actual revenue that you will get in the very short term. And the increment over winning the Stanley Cup versus losing in 7 is going to be, over the long run, it'll be 9 figures, not 8 figures to a franchise in terms of value of your team and in terms of what your daily revenue is, your gate revenue. So no, the Panthers owners, Vinny Viola, the president, Matt Caldwell, of course would love to have won it in 5, but winning it in 6 will be just fine.
I know how they operate their books is they never take the postseason into account when they're making their budget, even when they have a good team. So this is all extra revenue for them. So much so that they're even charging for the watch party for Game 6. The prices have gone up. It's no longer first come, first serve. Lower bowls, $40. They're not charging for parking. $10 upper level tickets. They're just grabbing revenue and inventing brand new revenue streams. It's actually great for them.
Are you? I was asking, are you upset how they're treating their fans, taking advantage of the fact?
No, I mean, I don't think $40 is like that outrageous to be in that building for a watch party, to feed off of that energy. Chris Cody did it for Game 4, and he saw the value in that, and he wanted to do that.
It was great till it wasn't.
Yeah, so
the energy was amazing before that game. Whoo!
I think, look, free parking at that building during the playoffs has cost a lot of money. I don't think that price is outrageous.
Why don't you park at Sawgrass and walk across the street?
People do. They try to curb that as best they can. There's better tailgates sometimes at the Sawgrass Mall than there is at the Amerant Bank Arena.
I think that as an owner of any business, you have to take advantage when you have an opportunity of everybody's trying to get more revenue from their consumers. That's what meetings are about. That's what marketing departments are for. You're trying to figure out a way to get more people to engage with your product. And if not now, when you are in the finals of your sport, this is the exact time to price gouge. So I applaud their efforts in doing it. And here's a little surprise. $40, is that too much? I bet you it will be sold out come Friday night.
Speaking of gouging, I saw yesterday a release came out of what 16-ounce beers cost at NFL stadiums, all NFL stadiums. Do you guys want to guess who came in highest and who came in lowest on what a 16-ounce beer costs all over the NFL?
Highest, I would assume New York.
I would assume Miami.
No, everybody is wrong there. The average price is $9.50. Do we have any guesses on lowest? The average price is $9.
Green Bay.
$7 beer somewhere.
Green Bay.
Miami and New York do come in over the average, but the lowest is Detroit and Atlanta at $6.25.
What?
Yes.
They're giving that stuff away.
Yeah, nice little cold Miller Lite.
So
to me.
Cincinnati is $6.59 and Los Angeles is $13.75. But the Eagles are the highest with $14.67 in Philadelphia.
That's more of like a security thing.
Yeah, they got to limit the beers over there at the link.
That's actually
I don't
brilliant.
think it's working.
It doesn't seem to be.
Imagine if they had $7 beers. you don't see what it would look like if they had 7.
You think there's a correlation that if the beers were half the price, there'd be twice the violence?
Yes.
Yes.
Irresponsible, and I haven't done the study, but I think in
Philly.
just in Philly.
Feels
just
safe to
in
say
Philly.
Do you believe the Charles Barkley retirement?
No, of course. That was such a joke. I loved it. He's gotten himself involved in something that's way over his head. The negotiations for NBA media rights deals inside the NBA. It's great. It's a great show. It's fantastic. Believe me, that is not what shareholders are concerned about, nor David Zaslav. And Charles Barkley announcing his loyalty, I'm leaving after next year. It's absolute horse hockey. I would expect him to continue to earn the money he earns because he lives well as he should. He has the ability to earn money, and it is rare to walk away when you still have earning power. So I would expect him to continue working. I think he's retired several times prior to this, too.
Not like this. No, he hasn't done this. He said one time that he was going to retire at 60 and did not do it. But he has not done what he did this time, though, David. What do you think?
But he's been so vocal, Dan. He's been so vocal about these negotiations. He's been so angry toward his own bosses. I was talking to Skipper the other day about this. What would he do if he had a broadcaster who was absolutely eviscerating him on the air, on his own air, no less? And he demurred, which was funny to me because I don't know that John would have done that when he was actually the president of ESPN. But I find it to be so inappropriate what he's doing. The shtick, I'm so over it. And then he takes over the news cycle by saying he's retiring like we all care so much. We
do care. And
it's a poor move to threaten quitting on your channels. It's a whack move.
You're
You don't do that.
perpetual. It wasn't on their channels, though.
It was not. Then I have the wrong information.
It was on NBA TV, and they operate NBA TV.
He's also taken shots on TNT, just like little jabs at the whole deal.
Yeah, and he's also faked retirement 17 times, and so much so that he's considered even calling other sports.
I like. Are you pro management all the time, David, on everything? Because I like that David Letterman goes after CBS. I like that John Oliver goes after his employers.
Well, that's the currency you trade in. So I wouldn't say that I am pro-management all the time while people accuse me of that, of being anti-player. That's not the case, especially at this point in my career. I just think that it's very difficult. I understand if you want to say certain things about your company and you use it as a sparring partner, but he was talking about a negotiation. He was not talking about production value. He was not talking about things that he'd like Turner to do, have more cameras, have a longer pregame show. Any sort of thing like that, I would understand. But talking about their negotiation to get a rights package, I found to be inappropriate. That's all.
I think we're going to have a broader conversation about college football in a little bit, but I want to ask you specifically about one aspect of some of the reporting that I've been doing this week and some of the things that I've been hearing. The introduction of private equity firms trying to get a piece of college athletics and specific football programs because that's where the revenue is. So there are some big-time programs that are considering their private equity options. For those that don't understand what this means, can you explain it in broad terms?
Well, first I want to plug the sporting class that we do with John Skipper and Pablo Torre, and we have talked about this, but I'll give you a very quick story about what it means. You are investing in something where you give, and the Big 12 is looking to do this as well, FSU, all sorts of organizations, doesn't matter. When you're trying to raise money, if you borrow money from somebody, they expect to get it back, and you sign an agreement. When it's a bank, you just pay them interest. That's it. They don't have a stake in your company. But private capital, private equity is like a bank that gets a piece of your business, which means they only give you money if they think that business is going to be profitable, because then you distribute the profits in order to give the person back the money who gave you the money. So all of these programs that are looking to raise money through the private equity markets, A, it's expensive money. more so than borrowing from a bank, less so than getting it off your credit card. But B, they're going to have to start showing profits, whether it's the athletic department, the specific program, or the conference. And that is bad news for non-revenue producing sports like diving or field hockey or water polo, those type of sports that are carried by the more profitable sports. You're going to have to cut the loss. And that's going to be bad for some athletes.
I have seen private equity and hedge funds and just general capitalist greed ruin a whole lot of things I care about, newspapers, chief among them, coming after Hollywood now in terms of just grabbing Red Lobster and selling it for parts. It's happening everywhere. Does this concern you at all? The fact that what is happening is so brazenly grotesque greed that they're ruining a variety of industries with just rampant gluttonous greed?
Did you ever see a movie called Pretty Woman?
Yeah.
That's a movie that I don't know if Lucy and Jess are not there today. They probably never heard of, with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere and Seinfeld, David Alexander. That's what he did for a living. He bought companies and ripped them apart. So it's been going on for forever. It's what people do. So no, that doesn't. I think in Tommy Boy they were gonna buy the body auto parts and rip it up, but no, this is
Callahan
very
Auto.
normal. Callahan Auto and Zelensky.
We buy comp parts for the working man. I don't remember the whole speech.
It's Jason Alexander, and it is George, and of course, it doesn't bother you that private equity firms ruin everything. You are
because
you rarely are anything other than pro management, David. You're not usually pro labor ever.
Yeah, you're right. Really glad he's on the business side of our company.
I mean, it's refreshing. I think one of the things that maybe Sporting Class might be missing is a dose of the actual labor force, like a former player, someone who explain that. But there really isn't enough management people also doing that from that side of the coin. So he's you may not like it, but it is a side of the business that we don't get that much insight to.
It's something that we've been used to. It's been going on in this country for a very long time. What's new, though, is that it's now infiltrating sports. But sports business, as you've talked about, and Nothing Personal tries to cover as well, it's an industry right now. There aren't enough voices in it who have any experience in it, and that's what John Skipper has, and that's what I have. And it gives you an understanding of what's happening, and people want to hear about it. They want to understand what's going on and what it means financially for whether it's college or on the professional side. Of course, that line is so blurred now because college sports really is professional sports.
What do you make of Paramount and Skydance merging?
This is big. They're not merging anymore. The deal was called off. This is another sports business story that impacts. I have to say that I do work for CBS Sports, which is owned by Paramount Global, which is Sherry Redstone, which is her company. If you remember the Redstone family, Dan, you may have come across him in your time. And here's the thing. There's something called Class A shares. Those are the shares of stock, not of people who own the Green Bay Packers. That's when you own shares of stock where you can actually make a difference in how a company is run versus something that you can say you own for S's and G's. So what happened with Paramount is they were trying to sell, which means she was trying to sell her stake, which is the Class A stake. And there was a concern that the other shareholders would be very upset with this deal because it would enrich her more than them. So she wanted, if you can believe this, she wanted the buyer and Paramount, the existing Paramount, to indemnify her, which means to not hold her responsible if anyone sued because the deal wasn't good enough for them. And of course, they said pound sand. And so the deal fell apart. And Paramount now has debt they have to deal with, much like Warner Brothers Discovery, which is why they're not getting the NBA. And when you've got a lot of debt, as you may not know, what you have to do is you either have to sell assets or you have to raise revenue and cut expenses. And Paramount is going to be in the process of doing just that.
As you may not know, did you see him get caught up in the air there? He came very close to saying Meadowlark has a bunch of debt, and he just we need to update some of your phrases. Horse hockey, pound sand. What do we need to do to get rid of horse hockey and replace it with something else, something a little more modern?
Horse hockey is the number 2 selling piece of merchandise on DavidSampsonPodcast.com, our horse hockey shirt. So I happen to totally disagree with you. The audience has spoken, and they purchased the shirts. If I went through the numbers with you, more horse hockey shirts have sold than some of the very shirts that you would assume would sell fantastically in the Meadowlark umbrella.
And that's why Meadowlark has so much debt. What movie are you reviewing this week?
I hope we have time and somebody has seen the cult movie, Dancing with the Devil, the TikTok cult. Please tell me.
I've seen like 3 of the 4.
I've seen of it.
I've seen of it too.
So here's the story. Apparently, you can dance on TikTok and get paid a lot of money. It is the battle of morons, but you stand there and you dance, and then people pay you to move into a house, dance, and apparently it all goes great until you're forced to have sex with the preacher, and it turns out you're drinking Kool-Aid as part of a cult. So that's when it gets a little dicey. Of course, it's a joke, the amount of people who actually can make a living doing these dances on TikTok, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this documentary where this family from Michigan with these 2 sisters who love each other and create all this content, all of a sudden one joins the cult, one doesn't, and it's a family nightmare trying to save the girl. She doesn't need saving. She's all over the web saying, I'm fine. I think her name's Miranda. I'm doing great. This documentary's been terrible. Meanwhile, it's increased her profile and the profile of the cult leading felon by tenfold. So you should watch it, but it's a nightmare.
Spoiler alert, the sister that's out of the cult marrying Austin Eckler. So Austin Eckler all of a sudden gets played into this documentary. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. I know that guy.
God bless Colts.
That's not even a spoiler. Who she married, that's not even a part of it, but I didn't know that part. So that wasn't part of the review, so thank you. That was great value added.
David, thank you.
Is he the guy who played Elvis?
Austin Eckler?
That's Austin Butler.
No.
He was great in it.
Commander's
His voice
running
hasn't been the same since.
He does play guitar after touchdowns. So.
See you later, David.
See you later.
We'll talk to you later. Can you guys find for me something that came across the scroll yesterday as confirmation that I didn't believe could be confirmation? That video that we were making fun of from a Ring doorbell camera.
Great audio.
Of someone who looked like Bill Belichick shirtlessly leaving a small apartment. That video is really and actually Belichick leaving now the house of what is his 24-year-old girlfriend. That's it's been confirmed that is indeed a shirtless Bill Belichick. That video that we said looked just like him but couldn't be like him. Is that the New York Post that confirmed that? Like, how the hell was that confirmed that the video that we suspected was Belichick was actually Belichick?
It's what the internet's saying. I still can't get over how good he looks with his shirt off.
It might have been a Dove story, and Dove doesn't appear to actually be Dove. There was questions as to whether or not Dove was actually real in the first place. He was, but it's since been reported that that Twitter account was sold and it's been on the wrong side of things, most notably the Mark Davis pregnancy thing that kind of threw everybody through a couple
And that
loops.
account with a tweet of the video credited the New York Post for confirming this, but then when you go to the New York Post, at least on Twitter, you don't see any confirmation.
It's really a wonderful
classic
thing.
aggregators.
It's really a wonderful thing that Elon Musk has done with his platform, and that the biggest thing surrounding this thing when it first came out was, how do we know what's real? Well, verified blue check mark. That's what's great. And so now your main feed is verified blue check marks that you're not following, so you don't think it's actually Pop Crunch. You don't realize that it's Poo Crunch when someone talks about a deadly cocktail that was found in Justin Timberlake's system.
I really think that this is best case scenario for me when I'm 74. Like, if I look like this, because I kind of have a barrel chest, kind of like Bill Belichick. So I really think, like, best case scenario.
I thought you were talking about dating the 24-year-old.
No, well,
I mean,
Hey, man, join me. I said, Matthew Kachuk, I love you more than my daughter earlier
Daily
today.
Mail's reporting it, so maybe we do have this.
Well, they're never wrong either.
They're definitely right.
They're really good.
I've read some about that aggregate site now. That is problematic, what has happened with that. That site is something that NFL people really trust and has become a popular aggregate site, and it's no longer run by
Dove?
the journalist who started it.
Yeah. It's a hellscape right now because we did this. Twitter, for all you could say about it, was trying to mitigate these problems, and now misinformation is worse.